In my honors government project, I decided to talk about how charities interact with government at a state and federal level. The charity that I chose to interact with was Room to Read. Room to Read was founded in the year 2000 by an executive called John Wood. John Wood has a very interesting story. In 1998, he decided to take a vacation from his work at Microsoft to trek through the Himalayas. While trekking, he met a resource director from the schools in Nepal with whom he visited a primary school that had 450 children and only a handful of books. Upon seeing Wood's reactions to the lack of books, the school's headmaster suggested, "Perhaps, sir, you will someday come back with books." This inspired John Wood to solicit book donations from family and friends via email sent from an internet cafe. A year later, Wood returned to the school with 3,000 books, all donated in response to his email appeal to friends and family. Soon thereafter, he left his job at Microsoft entirely to devote himself full-time to Books for Nepal, a side project that eventually formed Room to Read. Room to Read is a charity that focuses on education for children, and they envision a world in which all children can pursue a quality education, reach their full potential, and contribute to their community and the world.
My name is Nell O'Donnell, and I'm a volunteer with the Boston chapter of Room to Read. Room to Read is an international organization that seeks to educate all young children around the world.
The education problem around the world is a very serious one. In most countries, education is not the same as the US. Children lack basic school infrastructure, teacher training, and most importantly, books. 16% of adults in the world lack basic literary skills. 87% of all illiterate adults live in Asia and sub-Saharan Africa. 2/3 of the adult illiterate population are women. The lowest literacy rates and highest dropout rates are observed in Asia and Africa. Nelson Mandela once said, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." But now you may be asking yourself, why Room to Read? There are tons of charities out there.
So first of all, Room to Read is incredibly efficient. There are lots of nonprofits out there doing fantastic work, but very few do it as efficiently as Room to Read.
This pie chart shows Room to Read's expenses breakdown in 2014. Almost 86% of the money raised goes towards the programs, 8.7% goes towards future fundraising, and only 5.5% goes towards the administration. Room to Read has received a 4-star charity rating by Charity Navigator 8 years in a row. Less than 1% of all charities in the United States have received such an award. But how does Room to Read actually work?
It has two main programs, the Girls Education Program and a literacy program. And through the Girls Education Program, it provides scholarships, material support, and life skills training to young women in 10 countries around the world. And through the literacy program, it creates learning environments.
Room to Read has published over 17,000 libraries. They have printed over 15 million books, built almost 2,000 libraries, and supported over 30,000 girls to a better education. Room to Read has benefited over 9.7 million children. But how does Room to Read choose the countries they want to get involved with?
There are countries where they can have the greatest impact, where they partner with the local government. And so they're working within the existing systems, including the Ministry of Education, and not outside of them, helping to build capacity within.
The countries that Room to Read supports include Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Bangladesh, Nepal, India, Sri Lanka, Tanzania, Zambia, and South Africa. In all of these countries, the education system is not able to take care of all of the children. Public education lacks funding and support from the government. When Room to Read gets involved with one of these countries, they try to get the communities involved and support from their local and federal government. They want the town to be proud of the school and the school to be part of the community, a mentality that was inherited by the American public school system.
When Room to Read is entering a country for the first time or any time, one of the first things that it does is meet with the government officials in order to make sure that there is a firm partnership between the organization and the government structures already in place, including, as I said, the ministries of education, any other kinds of ministries that would be relevant to what they're doing. So working with the government is a priority. Many organizations work outside of the government system. They, for example, start private schools, low-cost private schools, in order to address the same kind of situation. Room to Read doesn't want to be in the business of creating their own schools that they have to run for and ever, but instead working with the ministry to work within the existing public school system there, to work with the teachers that are already there and build their capacity. So rather than creating a system in parallel with the existing governmental education system, they partner with the education system in order to make sure that anything that they do is reaching the right people, that anything that they do is going to be sustainable and last. And by partnering with the government, that's one of the key ways that they do this.
The U.S. government supports Room to Read in many ways. Most importantly, the U.S. government currently grants Room to Read about $470,000 annually. In return, charities like Room to Read help improve the relationship the U.S. has with other countries around the world. I supported Room to Read with fundraising, helping out in different projects, and spreading the word about the work Room to Read does. The most influential work I did took place in District Hall, Boston. This event was on the 26th of February and consisted of auctions, raffles, an a cappella group, a flamenco guitarist, and was hosted by David O'Leary from Magic 106.7. In the end, this event was a success and raised thousands of dollars to Room to Read. In the end, what I learned at Room to Read was how charities work and interact with the U.S. government and the government of other countries. I learned how charities like Room to Read are able to mimic the U.S. public education system and help other countries ensure a high-quality public education for their children. Charities like Room to Read are essential for the improvement of education around the world.